Deep within the shadowed valleys of forgotten time, where the wind whispers secrets through crumbling stone and the very earth breathes tales of old, lies a wisdom we've long abandoned. We, the inheritors of electric light and running water, of instant gratification and endless convenience, often look back at the medieval world with a certain pity. We imagine lives brutish, short, and perpetually uncomfortable. We conjure images of mud, misery, and a relentless struggle against nature's harsh embrace. But what if I told you that in those very shadows, amidst the hardship and the grime, bloomed an ingenuity so profound, so elegantly simple, that it could still humble us today? What if I told you that the men and women of 1,000 years ago, far from being mere survivors, were often masters of their environment, forging solutions that even now echo with a quiet genius? Forget the grand castles and the epic battles for a moment. Forget the kings and queens, the knights and the crusades. Let us instead turn our gaze to something far more fundamental, far more intimate, the very act of drawing a breath, of quenching a thirst, of staving off the insidious chill of a winter night. Imagine, if you will, a lone traveler. It is the heart of winter. The sun has dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples and dying oranges. A biting wind, sharp as a whetted blade, scours the land. The traveler, weary and chilled to the bone, seeks refuge. His breath plumes in the frigid air, each exhalation a ghostly whisper. His fingers, stiff with cold, fumble with the tinderbox. The world around him is a symphony of raw, unforgiving elements. The rustle of dry leaves, the distant howl of a wolf, the crunch of frozen earth beneath his boots. He needs fire, not merely for warmth, though that is paramount, but for purification, for security, for the very act of survival. But the wood is damp, the tinder stubbornly resistant. Frustration, a cold tendril of despair, begins to creep in. Many would succumb, many did succumb, but this traveler, he carries within him a piece of forgotten wisdom, a technique passed down through generations, not in books, but in the calloused hands of his ancestors. He knows a secret, a life hack, as we might so crudely call it today, that transforms the seemingly impossible into the quietly miraculous. We take fire for granted, don't we? A flick of a switch, a strike of a match, the turn of a knob. But for millennia, fire was not a convenience, it was a companion, a guardian, the very heartbeat of human existence. It kept predators at bay, cooked tough meat into sustenance, and offered solace against the gnawing dread of the darkness. To lose fire was to court death. To gain it, especially when the world conspired against you, was an act of profound triumph. The problem then as now was moisture. Damp wood, damp tinder, the bane of any fire starter. Modern solutions involved chemical accelerants, waterproof matches, elaborate kindling. But the medieval world had none of these. What they did have was an intimate understanding of natural materials, a deep, almost spiritual connection to the forest, the river, the very soil beneath their feet. And within that connection lay the answer. Consider the human struggle for warmth. Our bodies are fragile vessels designed for a narrow band of temperature. Too cold, and our systems begin to shut down, our minds cloud, our very will to survive begins to wane. The medieval dwelling, often drafty and poorly insulated, offered little respite. The communal hearth was the beating heart of the home, a source of light and life. But what about the journey, the hunt, the long, arduous pilgrimage? This is where our forgotten wisdom takes center stage. This traveler, his breath steaming, his hands aching, does not curse the dampness. Instead, he looks for something specific, something overlooked by the hurried eye. He searches for a particular type of fungus, a large woody bracket fungus, often found on dead or decaying trees. To us, it might be an inert curiosity, a mere part of the forest floor's intricate tapestry. To him, it is a treasure. He carefully detaches it, its texture surprisingly firm, almost leathery. This isn't just any fungus, it's Fomes fomentarius, commonly known as the tinder fungus or horse's hoof fungus. But its true genius lies not in its common name, but in its extraordinary properties. He doesn't simply try to light it. That would be futile. The magic lies in its preparation. He would take this fungus, often a large grayish-brown specimen, and he would begin to process it, not with power tools or sophisticated machinery, but with the simplest of implements, a knife, perhaps a stone, and the patient wisdom of his hands. He would first remove the hard outer crust, exposing the softer fibrous material within. This inner layer, often cork-like in texture, is where the true power lies. He would then begin a meticulous process of pounding and softening. He might use a wooden mallet or even a heavy stone, rhythmically beating the fungus against a flat surface. Imagine the sound, a dull thud, 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 echoing through the silent woods, a testament to human persistence. This pounding breaks down the cellular structure, making the material more porous, more receptive. It's a process that could take hours, turning a rigid piece of fungus into a pliable, almost felt-like fabric. This softened material, now known as amadou, is the true medieval life hack, and its brilliance is multifaceted. First, its exceptional absorbency. Amadou can absorb vast quantities of water, and more importantly, it can hold a spark with an unparalleled tenacity. Unlike natural tinder like dry leaves or birch bark, which might flash and die, amadou glows with a stubborn, enduring ember.
Our traveler, having prepared his amadou, would then take a piece of flint and a striker, perhaps a piece of steel or even another harder stone. He would strike them together, sending a shower of sparks cascading downwards onto a small piece of his painstakingly prepared amadou. He wouldn't need a roaring flame. He wouldn't need kindling to immediately burst into an inferno. He needed only a single, persistent spark. And there, in the deepening gloom, a tiny ember would begin to glow, a faint reddish point of light pulsating with life. He would then gently, carefully, cup the glowing amadou in his hands, shielding it from the wind, and begin to blow. A soft, steady breath, coaxing life into that tiny spark. He wouldn't blow hard, lest he extinguish it. It would be a delicate, almost reverent act. And slowly, agonizingly, the ember would grow brighter, a faint wisp of smoke curling upwards, carrying the promise of warmth, of sustenance, of life itself. This wasn't just a trick, it was a transformation. It was turning a seemingly inert piece of forest debris into a vital tool for survival. This simple fungus, when properly prepared, could catch a spark and hold it for an astonishingly long time, sometimes minutes, allowing the user to transfer that ember to more substantial tinder, gradually building a fire from the tiniest flicker. But the genius of amadou doesn't stop there. Beyond its fire-starting capabilities, it possessed other surprising properties that made it invaluable to medieval people. Its absorbent nature, combined with its soft, felt-like texture, made it an excellent material for wound dressing. Imagine a battlefield, chaotic and brutal, where every cut and abrasion could lead to debilitating infection. A piece of sterile amadou, applied to a wound, could staunch bleeding and prevent contaminants from entering, offering a rudimentary but vital form of first aid. Its natural anti-inflammatory and antiseptic properties, though not understood in a scientific sense, would have been keenly observed. The wisdom was empirical, born of generations of trial and error. Consider the shepherd, alone on the wind-swept moors, far from any village. A deep gash from a sharp stone, a sudden fall. Without a means to stop the bleeding, even a minor injury could quickly escalate into a life-threatening crisis. He wouldn't have a satchel full of modern medical supplies, but he might have a piece of amadou tucked away in his pouch, a silent guardian against the harsh realities of his world. Or picture the medieval surgeon, a man whose craft was often a desperate dance between intuition and the limited knowledge of his time. He might use amadou not only for dressings, but also as a cauterizing agent. The glowing ember could be applied to a wound not to sear it shut in the way we understand cautery today, but to stimulate blood flow, promoting healing, or to control superficial bleeding. It was a crude, perhaps painful, but often effective method in a world without antibiotics or advanced surgical techniques. And then there's its use in beekeeping. The smoke from burning amadou has a peculiar property. It calms bees without harming them. Imagine the beekeeper approaching a hive teeming with thousands of stinging insects. A puff of amadou smoke, and the frenetic buzzing would subside, allowing the careful collection of honey and wax. This was not a scientific discovery, but an observation honed by centuries of interaction with the natural world. It speaks to a deep, respectful understanding of the intricate web of life. The story of amadou is not just about a piece of fungus. It is a microcosm of medieval ingenuity, a testament to human adaptability. It reminds us that knowledge isn't always found in grand libraries or whispered in the halls of academia. Often, it is found in the dirt beneath our feet, in the silent language of the forest, in the careful observation of the natural world. It is practical, hands-on wisdom, born of necessity and refined by generations of lived experience. Let us return to our traveler, now bathed in the warm, flickering light of a steadily growing fire. The damp wood, once an insurmountable obstacle, is now spitting and crackling, releasing its stored energy. The air around him, once sharp with cold, is now imbued with the comforting scent of wood smoke. The subtle hiss of sap boiling, the occasional pop of a burning ember, these are the sounds of triumph, of survival. He leans back, the fatigue in his bones slowly melting away. He is safe. He is warm. He has, with a simple piece of fungus and ancient knowledge, conjured light and heat from the very jaws of the wilderness. And in that moment, the perceived gap between our world and ours shrinks. The struggles, the fears, the basic human need for warmth and security, these are timeless. What does this tell us about the medieval mind? It tells us that they were not merely superstitious or unscientific. They were intensely pragmatic. They were keen observers. They understood that the world was not just something to be conquered, but something to be understood, to be worked with. Their technology was organic, woven into the fabric of the natural world, rather than imposed upon it. Think of the vast number of forgotten techniques, the lost crafts, the countless pieces of ancestral wisdom that simply evaporated in the relentless march of progress. We marvel at the pyramids, at Roman aqueducts, at the Gothic cathedrals, and rightly so. But we often overlook the quieter innovations, the humble solutions that kept generations alive and thriving in environments we would find utterly daunting. Consider the sheer patience required, the meticulous preparation of the amadou, the gentle fanning of the spark, the slow building of the fire. This was not an age of instant gratification. It was an age of deliberate action,
of understanding that true progress often comes not from speed, but from precision, from deep understanding, from a connection to the fundamental rhythms of the earth.
In our modern world, we are surrounded by such complex systems, such sophisticated technologies, that we often lose touch with the underlying principles. We press a button, and light appears. We turn a tap, and water flows. We rarely consider the intricate networks, the vast infrastructure, the energy sources that make these everyday miracles possible. But the medieval individual, building a fire with Amadou, was intimately connected to every step of the process. They understood the relationship between the forest, the fungus, the flint, and the flame. This deep understanding, this embodied knowledge, is a wisdom we often lack. We are consumers of technology, rather than creators or even full comprehenders of it. And in that detachment, we lose something vital, a sense of our own agency, our own capacity to interact directly with the world around us and shape it to our needs, using only what nature provides. The forgotten medieval life hack of Amadou is more than just a historical curiosity. It is a potent reminder. A reminder that true ingenuity often lies in simplicity, in understanding basic principles, in harnessing the power of natural materials. It reminds us that resilience isn't just about enduring hardship, it's about finding elegant solutions within those hardships. Imagine for a moment that you were stripped of all your modern conveniences. No phone, no electricity, no easily ignitable matches. You are cold, hungry, and alone in the wilderness. Would you know how to coax warmth from the damp earth? Would you have the patience, the knowledge, the understanding of the natural world to survive? The medieval traveler, with his humble piece of Amadou, held that power. He carried not just a tool, but a philosophy. This quiet genius echoes across the centuries. It's a testament to the fact that humanity, even in its most challenging eras, has always sought to understand, to adapt, to innovate. The medieval period, often caricatured as the Dark Ages, was in fact a time of profound human connection to the environment, a period where survival often depended on a keen eye, a resourceful mind, and hands willing to work with what the earth provided. So, the next time you find yourself complaining about a minor inconvenience or fretting over a fleeting power outage, pause for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine the glow of that tiny ember nursed into life by a medieval hand, a spark of defiant warmth against the vast, indifferent cold. Think of the wisdom contained within that humble piece of fungus, a wisdom that speaks of patience, of observation, of profound respect for the natural world. It is a wisdom that whispers to us from the past, reminding us that even in our hyper-connected, technologically advanced world, the most profound solutions might still be found in the quiet corners of forgotten knowledge, waiting for us to rediscover their timeless genius. For the true measure of human ingenuity isn't just in what we build, but in how deeply we understand the world we inhabit and how elegantly we choose to live within it. The fire still burns, if only we know how to find the spark. And sometimes that spark is found in the most unexpected places, carried forward on the silent winds of history, waiting to ignite our wonder anew.